What's up, and welcome to the animated series where we showcase the dopest talent and untold stories behind the animation industry. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Alyssa Rosa, and today we are very, very lucky to be talking to Oscar-winning storyboard artist, director, showrunner, Everett Jr., everyone. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel good being here.
Yeah?
Feeling a little bit like Professor Xavier in this chair here. I love it.
I feel so lucky to be sitting across from you. You've impacted my childhood, so many people's childhood, and even our adulthood.
Wow.
For you as a kid growing up in Denver, you loved comics, didn't you?
I did.
For you, what was like your favorite issue from X-Men?
Oh man, see, you're asking the right questions. That's good. You've been paying attention. The comic book that is probably my favorite, probably because it's the one that got me into comics. It was the X-Men with Kitty Pryde on the front, and she's got Lockheed on her shoulder, and she's like up against the wall. And you open the first page, and she's turning to the camera. It was drawn by like Paul Smith, and she's like, "Professor Xavier is a jerk." And I remember when I saw that, I was like, "What is this?" I think maybe 10 issues later, it's Wolverine. He had just been, like, someone tried to assassinate him, and he was in Japan, and it was this spread of like him fighting the Silver Samurai. And Paul Smith did the whole thing, and it blew my mind, like the storytelling and like the poses and everything. I was like, this is the most incredible thing ever. I knew at that point, I'm like, I want to be a comic book artist. At that time, I wanted to be a comic book artist.
Was your mom very supportive of that in the beginning?
Not initially.
No?
No. I told her when I was growing up, I was like, I want to be a veterinarian. I would always say that, right? She was like, oh, that's so great. She was so excited for that. And my sister, my older sister, she's the one who actually introduced me to the X-Men. She came up to me and she would whisper my ear, no, you ain't gonna be a veterinarian. You know that, right? You draw all the time. Finally, she got me to admit, I'm like, you're right. I'm not gonna be a veterinarian. How am I gonna break this to my mom? So when I told her, she was like, you wanna be a what? Like, did they even make money? You know,
Right.
So it wasn't until like I actually end up dragging her to a comic book convention, and she saw like how much I loved it, and she saw how much I drew all the time, that she sort of started coming around to it. So it took a minute.
Yeah.
It took a minute. It
So
was
when
rough.
did you decide to go from comic books to then full-on animation or storyboard artist?
Yeah, I always loved it. Like I always watched it. I was like a big Saturday morning cartoons junkie, and I found out they showed like old anime early in the morning, so I would get up at like 6 in the morning to like watch these shows. I could never get enough, but I never like thought about pursuing it. It's like, oh, I'm not going to pursue like animation. But while I was in school, I would just draw, like I was drawing all the time, and I was trying to do a style that felt like an animated show. And this is like right before like Batman the Animated Series came out.
Yeah.
So I was kind of drawing, I'm not going to say I was drawing like that, but it was like in that sort of vein, right?
Yeah.
Like and I was like, I want to do a full-fledged comic book like this. And my instructor would say like, hey man, like, have you ever thought about doing animation? Like, these are really good. I was like, oh no, I never thought about it. But it wasn't until I saw Akira when I was in college.
Ooh.
And my brain felt like Tetsuo, like when he when he warps in the end. That's how my brain felt just watching it. I was like, what is this show? What is this? This is incredible. That's when I decided like, okay, I think I do want to do animation for a living.
You've seen a big change in animation from 2D to 3D.
I was in the transition. I was like in the middle. So I was in school. I remember thinking 2D is pretty dope. I can't see it. It can't get the depth of emotion, and it can't get the spirit. And then I went and saw Toy Story, and I was like, oh snap, maybe I'm wrong, you know? So I switched, I flipped, like after I saw Toy Story, I think it was like a couple weeks later, I changed my major. Oh yeah, I was like, this is the future. I need to get on this train right now.
So I would be doing so many of us a disservice if I didn't talk about a specific singing vegetable show you used to storyboard for.
We're talking about VeggieTales, right?
Yes, we are.
One of my really good friends, he was my mentor, he's my instructor, Luis Contreras. He was the one who kind of like told me about the job over there, and I ended up working under him. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm actually contributing to this show. And it was Larry and the Rumor Weed. And I just remember seeing my drawings up there for the first time in animatic, and I was like going like, oh, this is amazing. It just felt like magical, you know?
Yeah, you had transitioned from Blue Sky over to Pixar, correct?
Right. I've been in this position where I've like kind of bounced between story and animation in the animation industry for a while. And at Blue Sky, I'd animated on Ice Age, Robots, Ice Age 2, Horton Hears a Who, which was great.
Yes.
I was really pushing hard to be in the story department. Finally get in the story department. I'm doing development on Legend of the Leaf Man, which would become Epic, right?
Wow, yeah.
My buddy calls me He's an animator, Dave Pang. Shout out Dave Pang. He's awesome. And he's like, hey man, Pixar just reached out to me. I'm under contract. You didn't sign your contract, right? I was like, no, I didn't sign it. He's like, you should talk to them. They're looking for people. And I was like, oh, cool. What are they looking for? Are they looking for story artists? He's like, no, they're looking for animators. And I just made the transition. So I was like, I don't know, man. I can't. I just made the transition. But it's Pixar. Like, it'd be crazy to not do it. I ended up getting the job.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Story can wait. Storyboard can wait. This is Pixar.
Yeah.
So, of course, when I got there, my first time I went there for my interview, during one of the breaks, one of my friends was working there, and she's like, hey, do you want to see some stuff? She was in the lighting department. Do you want to see some stuff? And I'm like, yeah, of course I want to see. She brought me behind, and she showed me the scene where Colette is chopping, and she's like, how many men do you see in this kitchen? She's like, and he's like, no, none. And I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing this amazing animation.
Yes.
It looks so lush and beautiful. And I started like mad sweating. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get the job. I don't think I'm going to get the job. It was super nerve wracking. But then when I found out I get it, I think it only made me sweat more. I was like, okay, all right, I got to deliver to that level. But it was awesome. I mean, it was an amazing experience.
Speaking about Pixar, you've said that you, for a while, were the only Black creative in the room. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we hear a ton of those stories. For you, what was it like then comparing it to now?
Now it's very different, right?
Yeah.
Then I think, I was just so happy to get into that scene. I'm so happy to be there. But like after a certain amount of time, it really was asking the questions like, man, like, how come I don't see more, people that look like me,
Right.
Especially, there's certain things like how our image has been sort of handled in the past.
Right.
And like, sometimes you would see characters and you're like, oh, surely they're gonna like ask me for a little bit, but like, no, nothing,
Right.
So, but then like slowly people started reaching out to me and we started like kind of find each other, kind of create a circle, that sort of thing. And now it's like so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot better. I mean, I think there's always room for improvement.
Of course. Years ago, I'm sure it was very hard to sit back and like see, especially if it was our stories that were being told.
Right.
For you, where do you think there needs to be improvement when telling our like authentic, genuine stories?
Number one, there needs to be more Black executives in development. That's being improved as well. But on top of that, I think less gatekeepers because we have a certain tone, we have a certain like style, and a certain type of flair that's very different. We need the opportunity to really be able to get out there and tell our stories.
For you, as like creating your own, Black lead that led to your, latest series on Netflix.
Yeah. My Dad the Bounty Hunter.
How did your experience really like push you forward to like say, this is what we need to see, and this is what the story that I want to tell?
I'm super grateful to have been given that opportunity and just being in that position. I think, I'm looking to give people of color an opportunity to like rise to the occasion. There are several people that I've been hearing like, oh, they're not ready yet, or, they're like, I don't know if they're qualified, and they just excelled, and they just did like so like beyond expectation. Behind the scenes, like for the show, I just wanted like, I wasn't thinking about like, I have this agenda, I want to be, first Black action hero in space, It was literally, it's like, I want to tell this really funny story about this dad who has to spend time with his kids and has to learn, and he's forced, to go on this adventure with him, and, they become closer as a family.
You explored themes of like reconnecting and like a lot of family bonding, which is beautiful. I love to see our people in like beautiful light.
Yeah.
What drew you to writing about family specifically?
At the time I came up with this with Pat Harpin's co-EP, co-creator. I was kind of struggling, I was working on a particular animated project that, let's just say, I wasn't particularly inspired by. I was feeling like, oh man, I'm not connecting with this material. And not only that, I was like working a lot because I was like hustling, right? Yeah. And I wasn't seeing my family a lot. So I felt like, man, I'm kind of missing out on this whole thing. And I wanted to just do a love letter to like my family to kind of show them that even though Dad's working a lot, I'm still thinking about them and I'm doing this for them. And
what do you hope that the impact or that you think how it will impact audience members when they watch it?
I'm hoping that it like inspires another generation of storytellers to go like, okay, I can do that. I want to do that. And I don't want them to pigeonhole Like the art that we create as Black creators, like, oh, you know what? When it's Black History Month, I'll watch that show or whatever.
Watch it all the time.
Right. No, this is like a fun show that you want to watch. Like you're excited about when it comes out. We have a lot of stuff to say.
Yeah. So Dad incorporates sci-fi and fantasy. Mm-hmm. Did you ever face any challenges creating the world itself?
We had a very open room. Mm-hmm. Like our whole philosophy is like best idea wins, but then we're also like, we all have these crazy ideas. So it's like a lot of like additions, just like, oh, what if this? Oh, it could be this. Oh, and on top of that, oh man, that would be amazing. That part of it was really, really great. The hard part is like some things you got to kind of cut. It's like, oh, we don't have time for that. We don't have the budget for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, oh man, I wish we could do this, that feature or whatever. But I'm glad we got to do it the way it is. I think it's a really awesome format.
Yeah.
But it was also challenging. We're making stuff for kids, but like our goal was like kind of be all audiences. We literally wanted someone to like, oh yeah, this looks like fun. Like Timmy will like this, and he sits him in front of it, and then as he's walking away, he's like, wait, what? What's going on? Wait, what is that? Like, and just sit down and have them start like watching the show. Like that was our goal, is to kind of draw you in.
I watched it in one sitting.
Wow, that's amazing.
One sitting, and I was sad because I was like, wait, no, I need more. So I want to kind of like track back a little bit, and talk about how you worked on an Oscar-winning short.
Oh, yeah.
How does it feel? I mean, I haven't met many people that have been like, I won an Oscar.
I mean, I'm still like, I did that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And how does it feel? When you're in it, you don't think that's like it's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Like we kind of joke around, oh, it'd be funny if this one won, but you don't think. And then as it's going, you're like, yo, it's really going. And I remember even like when they dropped the teaser, it was like got like a bunch of crazy hits and it blew up on Twitter. I was like, okay, so we definitely connected with some people on that.
Yeah.
And just seeing just that impetus grow.
Yes.
It was really weird, even up to the end. Like when I got to the Academy Awards and we're sitting there, like I'm not sure where it's gonna go. Like Bruce Smith on one hand, like Stacey Newton on the other hand. We're like, I have no idea what's gonna happen. And then we called our names and they called the Hair Love. Like I was like, what? Like this is happening. This is real.
Yeah.
It still doesn't feel real. It just feels like
surreal.
It feels surreal.
Out of all the things that could have been like the metaphor for love,
why
do you think the team chose hair specifically, especially when it comes to Black women and Black people in general?
There's so much history around Black hair and like the need to kind of fit in, need to straighten your hair. Just that acceptance. I just love the idea of the acceptance. And also like, the struggle too, right? Because like in order to maintain it, like especially as a single, well, he wasn't a single dad, especially as a dad who's like, is inherited this, like it really spoke to me, especially because like I was the hairdresser with my girls when they were like super young, so felt like I really needed to like be a part of telling this story.
Yeah. You went from storyboarding to directing and creating.
Yes.
When did you realize that you had a calling for leadership?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I wasn't sure I'd make a good leader. I was like, I don't know.
Really?
I'd never had a leadership position before Hair Love. And I think it was really helpful. Like I worked with some really cool guys. Like Jorge Gutierrez was like, I mean, he's like my guru. I kind of like whatever he does, like I try to move like him. Peter Ramsey, who's also a good friend of mine and mentor. Whenever I see his leadership style, like that's kind of how I move. So
a little birdie told us that. Well, she runs this whole show. That you are a wonderful showrunner and actually one of her favorites.
That's awesome.
So
looking
over there. How does it feel to know that though? You're working so hard on your own leadership style, but to know that like you are actually making a good impact.
I mean, it's good to hear. It's good because like for me, I'm like, I hope I'm doing this right. Like a lot of times, I'm like, I'm just kind of going, I hope this is really great. I want people to have good experiences. I want them to feel super positive when they come out of it. And I want to be involved and help people kind of continue and grow and stuff. So
what would little Everett say about you today?
He'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, he would be like, you did that, like it's funny because as a kid, you're like, you imagine you could do these things, but I don't think I would believe it if I was a kid. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Like, no, I was a poor little kid back in the day, so I never thought I'd be doing something like this, So.
Do you hope to have like a full circle moment with X-Men someday? Is that like, is there a goal there? Or
Oh,
is it
man.
just a love that you'll always have?
Feige needs me to bail him out, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you need
it would be
me.
cool. It would be cool. I just don't know if it's in the cards, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like for me, like X-Men is so special.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid of color, like I totally identified with these guys who were ostracized and stuff. And I'd love to get kind of back to that, like really tell these really great stories. Like these characters are pretty awesome.
So my last question for you today is, what change would you like to see in the animation industry in the next few years?
Ooh, okay. I would definitely like to see a lot more sort of like equity in terms of like, I think a lot of times like animation creatives can kind of get treated as disposable in our industry. I feel like I would love to be able to see the creatives take a little bit more control, like in terms of like being actually able to get some authorship out there without as much corporate meddling, but that's difficult, you know what I mean? I think there needs to be more trust and more ownership. I think we need to have more ownership as a community, as the Black communities. I would love to be able to have some control of our identity, you know, our own identity, so.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me. It's literally been an honor and a pleasure to sit across from you.
Thank you.
Like I said, you've impacted my life, so many people's lives. Before you go, do you have any final things you may want to say to the audience? Maybe something that could help the next generation coming?
I always say this at the end of these things, tell your stories, get your stories out there. If you can find a way to get them out there, I think that helps. Start small. Don't try to like do anything big first. Like start small, take it to its conclusion, and then do it again. And try each time, try to get a little bit bigger, try to do a little bit more. You'll have this string of, you know, films behind you that will speak to your kind of like your own personal legacy. And, you know, get out there. Failure is a part of the process. We all fail. Get out there and get the failures out of the way so you can start enjoying your successes. So
couldn't have said it better myself. Random question, would you like to play a game?
Sure.
So now we're gonna play Befriend, Team Up, and Defeat, where Everett and I are gonna pick 3 names out of this hat. We're gonna just choose who we're gonna be besties with.
Okay.
Who is going to be our sidekick. And then you've seen Aladdin, right?
Oh yeah.
You remember Jafar and what happened to Jafar?
Oh yeah.
So we'll have to basically defeat.
That's a defeat. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
let's do it.
This could be tricky. Right,
Ready? I'm gonna pick out 3 random names.
Ooh, don't look.
All right. The Grinch.
Oh, okay.
Sonic. And then Cat Dog.
Okay. Okay. I feel super passionate about this.
Okay. So on 3, we're gonna choose who we're gonna befriend. Okay.
So we got the Grinch, Cat Dog,
and Sonic.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. So on 3.
A befriend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Sonic.
The Grinch.
Wow, the Grinch? You're gonna befriend a Grinch? Oh, he needs a friend, I guess.
In my head, if I team up with him, he won't listen.
Befriend is like, who could I just tolerate, right? And Sonic, you know, I feel Sonic.
Solid choice.
You run real fast. Go out and get us some beers. Boom, boom. He's back.
Is he old enough to drink? Well, obviously
I'm sure
he has to be.
Yeah, he has to be. I mean, he's hanging out with Tails all the time.
On 3, we're gonna say who we're gonna team up with. Ready?
Okay. 1,
2, 3. Sonic.
Grinch. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Grinch is mad gangster. Okay. He stole Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly?
If I'm gonna be pairing up with somebody and getting into shenanigans, it's gonna be the Grinch.
Him. Yeah.
Sonic feels OP. Just saying, like
yeah, I mean, he's been in the battlefield before. You know, I just was like, what if Eggman came back, or just not even like, what if we need to fight Cat Dog?
I get it.
You know,
yeah, I get it.
So
I just couldn't deal with the rings. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind if we go out and get it, but he's gonna, you know. But we both agree apparently
that we have
Cat Dog needs to be destroyed.
Yeah, I think it's just.
I think everybody. I mean, you all agree.
Yeah, everybody has to agree.
Nobody likes Cat Dog. I'm sorry.
Who did that to them?
I know. My whole thing is they were always just super annoying to me. Like, I was like, I don't want to spend time with these guys. You know, like
they also. I watched the movie as a kid. They also came from like a Bigfoot, and I just didn't understand how a Bigfoot made a cat dog. So.
Yeah.
So we decided you're going to befriend Sonic. I will befriend the Grinch. You'll team up with the Grinch.
And we'll both destroy Cat Dog together.
Well, thank you for playing.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for having me.
Everett, let's go. Welcome back to the animated series. I'm your girl, Alyssa Rosa. And today, I have award-winning voice actor and on-screen actor, Zehra Fazal. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here in my basement.
Your basement is stunning.
You've been in Cricket Creek?
Yes.
Amphibia?
Yes.
Most recently, My Adventure with Superman?
Yes!
How has that been, by the way?
amazing. It's
Yeah?
so cool to, I took a clip of it for my social media and I was like, looking at it, I'm like, oh, I'm fighting Superman. This is so cool.
That is so awesome. You also are in video games like League of Legends and Apex Legends, which
Yeah.
I love, by the way.
Oh, you play Apex?
Of course.
You are the Apex champion. That's something I'll never hear when I play, by the way, because I'm terrible at it.
I'm never heard either, but I'm gonna cry. But you're also in live action, most recently in the iCarly reboot, and as well, you play a character in Critical Role.
It's actually the new game from Critical Role called
Ooh.
Candela Obscura. And I play a character in it who, as of the time of this recording, has not been revealed
Ooh.
what her name is.
Ooh.
But it's a spooky kind of paranormal investigator game.
So as a kid growing up in Indiana,
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time reading, writing, and at some point you wanted to be an animator, right?
I did, yeah.
Where did that desire come from?
We didn't have cable. We had like the 4 channels you got with the dish. And so I would watch a lot of like Care Bears and My Little Pony. And then the Disney Afternoon. I especially loved Darkwing Duck. That was like my first cartoon love. And at the end of every episode, I would like watch the credits and see like who were the folks who made the show. And I remember from a very young age seeing with the voice talents of, and I would see the list of names. And I would watch the credits of every cartoon and see certain names keep reappearing. And so I got a sense that, oh, this is one person doing the voice of several different characters across several different series. Like specifically with Jim Cummings, who plays the title character in Darkwing Duck. I would then be able to hear like, oh, this is Jim doing his kind of higher voice, and this is him doing it really low, and this is him doing kind of his squeaky voice, and so I would hear him in everything, and I would do that with other voice actors.
Wow.
As a kid, Gargoyles was my other big love from the Disney Afternoon. Talk about horror
Yes,
vibes.
I love Gargoyle.
So great. I picked up the Gargoyles comic that Marvel published in 1994-95. And then I began drawing because I wanted to kind of emulate that art style. And it's from there that my interest in like comic books, fine art, animation really began. And so at that point, as like a 10, 11-year-old, I was like, I want to be an animator. This is what I want to do. I want to make comics and tell stories and draw. When we finally got the WB, which was not yet the CW, I loved Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, okay.
Pinky and the Brain.
Oh my God,
Animaniacs.
yes.
It was so funny.
Yes.
And like, it was so adult.
Very.
Early in high school, I got interested in anime through Pokemon was my gateway drug
Yes.
to kind of some of those
As-
like late
as
90s anime.
Mine too.
Yeah.
What actually drew you to acting specifically?
When I went to college, I was fully intending to study fine art and computer graphics because I thought, just really dating myself here. I had just seen the prequels. I had seen Phantom Menace, and I was really inspired by the use of special effects and visual effects, and also got really involved in doing student theater productions and the theater department. And what I discovered in college was, I think as artists, we can be very sensitive about our work, especially at a young age when we're showing our work for the first time to others.
Right.
And I found in those early years of college, when I would get critiqued for my visual art, for drawing, I would have a harder time taking the criticism and wanting to continue than I would if I were getting direction and critique as an actor.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that hit differently for me. This is something I try to tell young people a lot. Especially coming from a South Asian background, my parents were immigrants from Pakistan and India. There's definitely the mentality in that culture of you either do it perfectly and it's perfect your first time, or you're terrible at it and there's no point in trying it. It's a fixed growth mindset
Right.
versus, I can get better. I can take steps and practice and get better. And then I can get better, and I can get better. And it's the folks who have that growth mindset versus the fixed mindset that end up doing great things creatively.
How do you tap into emotions of a new character, especially for important scenes, especially since you're by yourself now in the booth?
It sounds like such a basic thing, but when you get the script for a project, read the whole script. Don't just read your scene. Don't just read your lines. You are a specific cog in the machine that is the story. And so you need to know what your function is. Is your function to provide friction against the main character?
Right.
Is your function to be the emotional heart of the story? Is your function to, hey, sprinkle in a joke every now and then? Who are you in this piece? And once you know that, and that is very clear, you can then feel empowered to make some strong choices on your own. You want to give artists something to animate, something interesting.
Yes.
So the more you can incorporate physical movements, if I'm getting ready to go on a journey, maybe I'm grabbing stuff from my pack while I'm talking to you. And so doing that gives it some physical, visual, and emotional interest.
Yeah.
That then creates something full in the absence of having another human to create with. I work on a lot of action series, and I also end up being the person they call in when they need to fill out action sequences. So what do I mean by that? Kind of the exertions of the giving damage, taking damage, falling from the sky and screaming. And so the things you kind of have to do to yourself to get vocally in that zone can be very fun and sometimes embarrassing. The number of times I've had to kiss my hand to get a kiss sound that sounds like you're kissing another person's mouth. Or I remember there was one series where I take a bite out of somebody.
Oh.
And so multiple times in the booth, I was like, in my own arm.
That's a good bite. Very salmy sounding, by the way, which is really good.
Oh, and like getting sloppy sounding things.
Ooh.
Like just the other day, I played a character who sucked in on themselves. So I took a sip of water to get it really nice and juicy. And I gotta say, we voice actors, you don't want to go in the booth after we've been in there until it's aired out a bit, because there's water everywhere. And if you're doing it right, you're dripping in sweat.
So you mentioned that Darkwing was one of your favorite series as well as Gargoyles. Have you ever had maybe a full circle moment with those shows at all?
Yes, specifically with Gargoyles. Starting in 1997, I believe, they would do yearly meetups called The Gathering. And this grew into a convention called The Gathering of Gargoyles, where Greg Weisman, the series creator, would bring on various folks who worked on the show, voice actors, artists, the composer. And so as a high school graduation present, my father agreed to take me to The Gathering of the Gargoyles in 2001, and that's where I met Greg Weisman. And at the convention, they had an event called the Radio Play, where Greg would bring a script from Gargoyles or a script related to it, and he would have auditions. So fans at the convention could read for him to get cast in this show, and then we'd put it on for the whole convention on the last day. So I was all 16 years old, and I read for Greg Weisman, and I got cast in the Radio Play that year as Elisa Maza, the female lead.
My
who,
goodness.
You know Elisa.
Yes.
Icon.
Yes.
I only had red, black, and denim in my closet for a few years as a child because I was inspired by her look.
Listen, no judgment here. No judgment at all.
As I was leaving, Greg Weisman said to me, hey, I know you're going to college now, but you should really consider when you graduate coming to LA, because I think you could really have a career doing this.
Wow.
This industry is so special because of people like that. And I'm so grateful that Greg Weisman, for me, was that mentor. And over the years, through the convention, we would keep in touch. And when I graduated college and started my life as a young actor on the East Coast doing theater, I would keep in touch with Greg, and occasionally he would send me an audition.
Oh, wow.
So just getting this opportunity, I always had in the back of my head, oh yeah, voice acting is something maybe I could go do. When I moved to LA years later, I really started attacking voice acting. It was then, after a few years, that I got a series offer directly from Greg to work on season 3 of Young Justice.
Wow.
So that was truly this full circle moment of my mentor who had seen something in me at age 16 and told me, hey, you should stick with this. This is something you could do. Then getting the opportunity to work with him on a show as iconic as Young Justice.
Yes.
It was an incredible moment. I just feel so lucky.
Yeah.
You know, they say don't meet your heroes, but I don't think that's true.
I think this is an instance where meeting your hero was like the greatest thing that probably could have happened.
And I think especially as creators,
Yeah.
more often than not, what we put out into the world, people who are resonating at that same wavelength creatively, emotionally, find your work. When a young person has a passion for something, follow that passion to the end of its natural conclusion and the things you will discover. I have to shout out Jeff Trammell. I collaborated with him on Craig of the Creek when he was head writer, and I've had the good fortune to work with him since and call him a dear friend, and he is somebody who leads by example. He is so complimentary and supportive of all the people he works with, and I look at folks like that and I'm like, wow, that's the kind of person I want to be, even when I'm not in a showrunner position.
I feel like a lot of the times we tend to talk about the highs or our successes in our careers.
I know it's coming.
Can you tell me about a time that's been difficult for you and how you got through it?
Yes. Last year was very challenging for me. Professionally, things were going great. All these projects I had recorded in 2020, 2021 were finally coming out. I had new stuff to promote every week, it felt like. Truly an embarrassment of riches. At the same time, I was the lead character in a series that we'd recorded 13 episodes and was canceled.
Wow.
I was a heavily recurring character in a celebrity-led adult animated series that we had recorded 13 episodes and then it was canceled.
I'm so sorry.
I was the lead titular character of a major video game. And then that entire creative team was fired and replaced, and they wanted to hear more options. And so essentially I lost that role, a career-defining role. And enough of these things kind of happened in a short period of time that for a while, I got real emo and real existential. And I was like, does the universe not want me to have this? And my tendency is to go inward and blame myself first, as I think is the natural tendency of all of us, is did I do a bad job? If I were just a little bit better of an actor, could the project have been saved? If I was a little funnier, if I was a little younger, like who knows? If I was a little more famous, would they not have stopped this? All these things are like, what could I have done? What could I have done? And I really had to kind of grieve those losses.
Right.
And understand that I don't have the power to change or save any of these things that are so made by people so many levels higher above me. And I think over time and through sharing this misery with others, you realize this is just something that happens. And I have to credit again Greg Wiseman. I had lunch with him in the middle of all this. And I was like, Greg, what's going on? Everything's falling apart. And he said to me, you've just described a very normal creative career.
Yeah.
Like, sure, things are weird right now, but this is how it goes. Things are like this, and things are like this, and things are like this, and things are like this. I got into this because I love storytelling.
Yes.
And I love telling stories with other people.
Yes.
And I love art, and I love cartoons, and I love good writing, and I love inhabiting characters and living in emotional spaces that are different from me or the similar. Like, that's what I love. That's what makes me, as I talk about it, happy. And if that is my focus in my career, I can't control the rest. But if I can control my joy, my commitment, my energy to telling the story, which is what sets me on fire, that's gonna help me sail through those hard times.
Are you partial to voicing heroes or, villains? Are they your favorite or is there something else entirely different?
I love it all. I love being, I think the hero often is the emotional heart of the story. The audience surrogate by which you see this strange world and journey you go on. And I love being that. It feels so natural. But I think it's really fun to play a villain. And I think the really fun thing for me, the challenge of playing a villain is, the villain is a hero in their own story. And they know what's right for the world.
Exactly.
This is absolutely what's right. And you're in my way. You're the villain.
Exactly.
I love humanizing villains.
I love villains.
And they get the best songs. I mean, come on.
Well, thank you for coming on today. I had such a wonderful time learning from you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I had a wonderful time talking with you.
Do you have anything else you would like to say to maybe our audience members?
Yeah. For everybody out there who is a fan of animation in whatever genre Thank you for supporting this incredible medium that has so many possibilities for storytelling and connection. And if you work in animation in any aspect or you want to, there's so many resources out there now. And so many people like me, like no two voice actors have the same story of how they came up. I hope that hearing about my journey is helpful to you, but your journey is gonna be so different and so your own. And it's the journey itself that makes the career. And that sounds a little esoteric and philosophical perhaps, but it's really true. So just fall in love with the process of becoming, and it's gonna unfold for you.
Would you like to play a game with me?
Yes!
Okay, let's do it. We're gonna play a game. Befriend, team up, and defeat. This is where we pick 3 names out of the hat. We befriend someone, we team up with another, and then remember what happened to Ursula in The Little Mermaid?
Ooh, yeah.
Basically, we gotta do that. So I'm gonna pick 3 names out of this hat, and on 3, we're gonna say whether we befriend them, team up with them,
Okay.
or Ursula them.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Jimmy Neutron, Eric Cartman, Patrick Starr.
Oh,
So the first person is Jimmy Neutron.
okay.
3, 2, 1. Defeat.
Befriend.
Whoa.
So see, Jimmy Neutron is voiced by Debbie Derryberry, I believe,
Yes.
who's a lovely actor and a coach, teacher as well. And so I feel sympathetic to Jimmy.
That's understandable. He's very nerdy,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like for me, just hearing him,
You want to defeat the nerd.
just
That is fair. I validate your choice.
and I validate your choice too. The next one is Eric Cartman. 3, 2, 1.
Team up. Hey!
I just think it's an obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, he's always got like a devious scheme that's really often wildly inappropriate, but so hilarious.
Yeah, and I think him, for me, beating up Jimmy Neutron, it kind of makes sense.
Wow. Wow. This Jimmy Neutron vendetta goes deep.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
don't tell anybody. So lastly would be Patrick Starr,
Okay.
who I'm assuming you would then defeat and I would befriend.
Yeah, I'd beat him up.
Why?
He's just kind of annoying.
Is he?
I'm sorry.
No,
Here's the
it's
other thing.
fair.
I didn't get cable growing up, so I didn't watch SpongeBob. So all I saw was like my friends doing bad SpongeBob and friends' expressions and this like pink star. What I'm really doing when I want to defeat him and beat him up is beating up my lack of resources as a child.
Well, since you put it that way, I'm gonna switch mine to Patrick just to be there with you. Zehra Fazal, everyone!
Yay. I gotta see who else is in this hat.
Listen, I've become a convert.